hard to understand these big problems in epistemology. Like that's not informative, and like that doesn't answer the question. Like that's really
I
boring,
answered the
right?
question, what is philosophy? I answered the question, what is a philosophy?
You're so funny, dude. You're like my
How am I
favorite
not answering
person.
these questions?
You're like my favorite person, dude, of
Like,
all
I
time.
literally don't understand how you are
Yeah.
interpreting that I am not answering these questions. In my head, like, I am answering every
Oh
single
wait,
one of them.
BT, ask me a question real quick, like any question.
Yeah, Pensive, what do you think about like the problem with the criterion? Do you think it's ever going to be solved or no?
So I went to Mars on a random Thursday. I got a drink with a random black guy. I also went to the slums of Detroit, Michigan, and got fish tank secondary intentions and slapped him over the face with it. Do you agree that answers the question, but it doesn't actually answer the question?
Yeah, it's like it's an
answering the question would be an actual response to what he just asked instead of just gibberating.
Yeah, you could say something like an answer to my question would be like particularism or like Methodism or something like that, right? That would be an answer to the problem, right? Maybe it's not a satisfactory answer, but it would actually be an answer that's like informative and I can actually like, investigate, right? Like you're not answering any question at all with anything besides like a non-answer.
You asked me what philosophy was. I gave you a definition of philosophy. You asked me what a philosopher was. I gave you a definition of a philosopher.
You're incredible, dude.
Dude. And also, I asked you, what does it mean to practice in the field of philosophy? Give me the reduction on what it means to practice in a field of philosophy. What does that mean?
You would have to be following the description of philosophy, which is you would have to be trying to solve the biggest... I don't know how that doesn't answer your question.
Okay, now this actually does start to begin to answer my question. So someone who practices philosophy is someone who thinks and solves the world's hardest questions. Like, okay, we can work with the Disney definition of philosopher. Okay. Now, getting back to... This is all I wanted, by the way. Like, you could have just answered this, and then we could have got back to theism, right? So, now I'll give the argument for theism now.
Sure.
Necessarily, if God exists, then he exists necessarily. Possibly God exists, therefore God exists.
Okay, sure. The definition of God is usually a creator. There can't logically be a creator that doesn't change, and therefore, at the bare minimum, the creator does not exist.
Okay, what's... I don't understand why that means God doesn't exist.
Sure, because God would have had to have changed. A perfect being cannot change. The creator is usually defined as perfect.
Okay.
Perfect being changed, therefore he's not perfect, therefore God doesn't exist. Or at least that definition of God being the creator does not exist.
Okay. Do you agree there's a difference between God changing and the state of affairs changing?
Sure, but does that mean that God changes?
Okay, there's follow-up. So then it would follow that if you cite an example of the state of affairs changing, that doesn't mean God changed per se.
No, it would mean that his parts changed.
God doesn't have parts. He's simple. What does that even mean?
Right. Well, I would say that literally all of the things that make up God would be...
Nothing makes up God. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Literally, how do I put this? It wouldn't be physical things that make up God. It would be like God's knowledge, God's plan, God's stuff that makes up God. It would be not physical attributes like a face or hands or feet, but it would be like not physical attributes like his knowledge or his skill or his perfectness would be an attribute of God. I would describe these as parts of God, and the parts of God would change.
What changes about any of those things?
His knowledge of being the only thing in the universe turning into not the only thing in the universe. Or also, if you want to ignore knowledge, just the physical state of being that he is the only thing that exists in the universe and then not the only thing that exists in the universe.
Okay. So this all can be solved if you just posit God as foreknowledge.
Even if you take foreknowledge away, like especially if you take foreknowledge away, because number one, if he doesn't know that there's becoming to him not being the only thing in existence, and then he learns that he's the only thing in existence.
He doesn't learn.
Knowledge is a part of him, therefore he changed for creation.
Knowledge is not a part of him. Like all this language and verbiage is so confused and so confusing to engage with.
This is actually a very common argument from an atheist. This is something that an atheist
who's the atheist?
very much often. Allegedly, Ian.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Wait, I want you to repeat back. Okay, I want to get this super crystal clear. So, what is exactly allegedly Ian saying when he's saying these things? Like, what's exactly going on? I just want to get this super crystal clear. What are you claiming he's saying?
Sure. God is the only thing that exists before creation, and he created everything. So then he changes into from not knowing to knowing, or from the being a not creator to the being of a creator, or literally anything, just foreknowledge in general. But if you take out foreknowledge, then he changed entirely, like 100%.
Well, why would we take out foreknowledge?
That's what I'm saying. It would be it would be stupid to take out foreknowledge.
Okay, so then.
Oh no.
This is so okay. So then, continuing the fact that he does have foreknowledge, would it also follow that if he has knowledge on the state of affairs or when he was the only thing in existence, he wouldn't change because he knew it already? And
right,
I'm trying to use your type of language. I don't agree this accurately captures what's going on here.
I mean, that's only one small part of the creation or the equation. He's the only thing that exists in all of the universe, and then that would be a description or a definition or a very serious, very big part of him. And then all of a sudden, he's not the only thing in creation. So he goes from the only thing in creation to a necessary part of creation. So he changed.
What the? Okay, can you repeat that, please? I wasn't really paying attention.
Sure.
Pensive accusations have been made against you in the chat. Go ahead.
That's right. I am fake. Listen, get up here real quick. You're going to enjoy talking to this person.
Sure. So God changed big time. If he's a creator, he literally went from being the only thing in existence, which would be a definition of God, or at bare minimum a part of God, to not being the only thing in existence. So not only did he change, but literally everything around him changed, and he changed everything. So God changes?
Okay, so I want to be confused. I want to clear up something. Did you say he's a part of creation?
No, I said that him existing before creation, him existing alone aside from creation, would be a definition of God.
Okay. So then
the definition of God changed.
Okay. Just even saying this is true, what's the entailment?
God does not change. The definition of God changed, therefore God doesn't exist.
Okay, can you please? Okay, can you please bridge the relevance between those two things, please?
At extremely face value, God's definition changed. The perfect being cannot change in any way. A perfect being has to remain the same permanently. The thing that defined the perfect being is gone. It vanished, it disappeared. So either the perfect being doesn't exist or the perfect being changed, making him not perfect.
Okay, this is... Oh my goodness. Okay, so... Yeah, so when people of perfect being theism, or like forms of classical theism, say God doesn't change, they mean he doesn't undergo any intrinsic or accidental change. So I'm pretty sure scholarlies hold, or like the scholastic side of philosophy, their view is that change implies either improvement, which is impossible given that one, God's a maximally perfect being, or deterioration. But of course, he can't be deteriorating because he's a perfect being, right?
Okay.
However, when you look at things that try to describe God like a definition, those things can change because it's a definition. That's not something bundled in with God.
A definition very perfectly and very accurately describes the thing that is being defined. That is pretty much the pureness of the definitions. If the definition of a thing changes, then the thing changes.
Okay, if I look at something like an immovable object, and then and we agree that it can't stop moving, right?
Sure.
But then I stipulate it can't stop moving. That's how we define it. But it still doesn't stop. Do you think that makes sense?
Okay, so something is moving throughout the universe.
No, it can't stop moving. But then I stipulate in the definition that it does stop moving. Does that make sense to you?
Does it stop moving?
No, it doesn't stop moving.
Then it didn't change. The definition didn't change. Your logic isn't accurate.
Okay, you agree it doesn't make sense, right? So
no, I'm not saying that your logic isn't accurate.
So yeah, so it doesn't make sense, right?
No. Okay, so this is.
So it does make sense. By the way, that is a true dichotomy, right? Does it make sense or not?
Universe, does Jupiter change?
No. Does it make sense or not?
Does my argument make sense?
That's not the question. What are you doing? In the example I gave, do those two things I said make sense?
Again, I'm answering your question in a
No, that's a yes or no question. Do you agree that makes sense? Yes or no?
A thing that is moving that you define as not moving is still moving. So no, it does not make sense.
Okay, great. It doesn't make sense. So then, when a view like perfect being theism has attributes like divine simplicity, right, and other commitments, you would agree that defining something that the view doesn't entail doesn't make sense to say that's wrong. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, how about this logic? Jupiter is moving through space. Jupiter is a giant, large object moving through space. Jupiter stops moving. Did Jupiter change?
Jupiter. Wait, sorry, I didn't pay attention to all of that. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, again. So, Jupiter is a giant, massive object flying through space at enormous speeds.
Yeah.
Right, okay, now Jupiter stops moving. Did Jupiter change?
Yes, because he stopped moving. That's what it means to change.
Not creating to creating. Did God change?
No, God himself did not change. The state of affairs changed.
The thing that God was a non.
No. There is no. That language makes no sense. The thing that God was. That implies there was a difference between God at some time, whatever. No, that's not what the view is. No, because God doesn't have any. No, that doesn't make any sense. Because God does not undergo. Again, stipulated before, God does not undergo accidental change. He is pure act. This makes no sense.
Pluto is not a planet.
Pluto is a planet.
No, Pluto is not a planet.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said something else. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Okay, so Pluto is not a planet. Pluto used to be defined as a planet. Did Pluto change? Of course not.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now, if Pluto were to stop moving, would Pluto have changed?
Yes, he would. Yes, if Pluto stopped moving, that's a change. I agree that so this confusion gets cleared up. I agree that in any case, besides theism, for the reasons I'm about to list out, of all the analogous attempts to try to make it look like God changes, the situation that you're trying to analogize does change. However, those are accidental or intrinsic properties that those things did change. However, God does not bear those same things because classical and perfect theists reject that God has accidental change.
Sure. So Pluto is not a planet. Pluto, just as, theory, not something that is true, not something that is going to happen, but just, a thought experiment. Pluto, just one day, because of gravity, can no longer maintain its orbit, flies off into outer space. Was that accidental?
What the Again, I agree that all of the situations you're going to give are going to be answers that look like they're analogous to theism. I grant all of those analogies. However,
Right, so
this is not engaged. This is not engaging with the thing on the table right now.
Sure. I'm saying that the thing on the table is that God changes. You're saying that the thing on the table is that God does not change. And I am telling you that every other thing that follows the logic of how things change, changes. And the only thing that doesn't
What's the logic of how things change? I don't what does that even mean?
The only thing that doesn't match this description of change is God. Therefore, God is either false or he doesn't exist.
Okay, the first two are debatable on whether they follow. That's debatable whether that follows. Or it can be that the rule doesn't adequately capture what change simpliciter tries to get at, right? There are exceptions to almost every rule, right? Besides a few, but we just need this one rule to fail, which you could give counterexamples. Like maybe you could. It's logically possible, right?
Can you give a counterexample of something that,
theism. Perfect being theism. That's a counterexample to it.
Being theism.
Which thing, sorry?
Other than perfect being theism, can you give an example of something's definition changing where that thing did not change?
I'll just say no because I really want to progress, right?
The only thing that doesn't match this definition.
Again, I'm agreeing for all those. I just really want to progress because this is really confusing and I want to help you out.
It's only confusing because you want to help me out and you don't want to be helped out. You don't want to admit that you're lying.
No, because one, I'm not a theist, and two, this is just really bad engagement with theism.
So you're not a theist, but you're arguing a...
Yes, because I'm LARPing. The person up here like 20 minutes ago was my friend and we were LARPing.
So
Now it just evolved into pity. Like I genuinely feel bad if this is how you engage with theism. So I'm trying using my atheist given love heart, help out a brother.
So you concede.
To what?
Sounds like a concession.
To what?
Concession the right word?
What am I conceding to? You never there was no
concession.
There's no concession. I still agree. What are you doing? What is going on? I agree that I'm not a theist. However, the argument of theism that I gave is still on the table. That's still not been contended with.
Right, I contended with that argument of theism. I proved it wrong, and therefore...
Okay, look. I'll say it again. Necessarily, if God exists, then he exists necessarily. Possibly God exists, therefore God exists. What did you prove wrong of those two things?
I proved that God couldn't possibly be a creator. So your definition of God being a creator and being created the universe is flawed.
And why is it flawed?
Because it would imply change.
What type of change does it imply?
The state of existence from being a being that does not create or did not create to being a thing that does create.
That's not what I'm asking.
To not only
I gave you two types. No. From the scholastic view, I gave you two different types of change.
Okay, do you agree
Which one is it?
Implies change?
I'll help you out. It's accidental change.
Sure, it's accidental.
Okay.
Sure.
Accidental change.
You concede that
to my understanding, accidental change refers to modifications in non-essential properties.
Sure.
Of a substance. Without altering the nature or essence of the thing itself.
Sure, without the nature or the essence of the thing of itself. So I ask you again, what about Pluto's steering off course?
Again, this is not analogous. Whatever answer I give you is not going to be analogous to theism. And again, you did concede.
So you concede.
No, you conceded.
Sounds like
also, all the examples you give, I just told you, I've said this many times.
Yeah, it sounds like you're
This
conceding.
does not apply to theism because all the accounts that you're going to give are not analogous with something not having accidental change.
Right,
and
so
also,
all of these things that I am describing as change, because they're accidental change, it doesn't matter.
look, I'll engage with the analogies. Does their essence change?
Yeah, literally, their essence changes.
Does their nature change?
Literally, their exact nature changes from not creating to demanding, or not demanding, dictating.
Do you think Pluto creates things?
Leaving Pluto creates things?
Do you think... Look, I was asking for your examples of the planets.
Sure. Pluto steering off course would change a lot of things. Number one, it wouldn't...
No. Do you think its essence changes or its nature?
Literally, its essence and nature changes. Maybe the chemical components of it doesn't necessarily have to change, but new chemicals and components would be added to it over a course of time.
What do you think in essence is?
Off course.
Okay. What do you think in essence is?
Any definition that you have of an essence, I will concede to. Okay. Any definition that you give me, even if it's a frog.
Because earlier, and maybe I heard you wrong, I was still in the comments, can break check me in my mental reconciliations right here, but you did say, or I'm accusing you of that. You said that nature doesn't change. You said yes without changing the nature. So if that's true.
No, hear me out. The reason that I said that the nature doesn't change is because he wasn't a creator in that scenario. If I'm remembering correctly, which I know that I'm not. But if he's not a creator, then his essence doesn't change. If he's a constant in the universe without having to necessarily have created the universe, then sure, that description of God is not horrible. It would probably be the best description.
I'm so confused.
That doesn't mean that the definition is true. It ignores literally all of theism. Literally every god.
Okay, I think I could be misremembering. Do misremember, please forgive me, everyone here. But I'm almost positive the concept was about the analogies. Can anyone in the comments confirm or disconfirm? We were talking about the analogies of this part.
Even if I said that the natures don't change, I would have been wrong because the nature is literally changing. As creation is happening, if God is the creator...
Okay, someone confirmed that it was about the analogies. Okay, so then...
Even if it was, I would have...
Okay, well then, that's why, it's so confused, because if their natures don't... Okay, so if you can see to that, then God does not change, because there's no accidental change, which is what the view implies.
If God is not the creator and simply exists, then God does not change. There's no situation in all of space or time where God has changed if he wasn't the creator. If he's the creator, he changed, period.
What type of change is it?
From not creating to dictating.
That's not a type of change.
That is a
what are you talking about?
Type of change. That is the literal definition of change.
No, he is asking for a type of change. Like, for example, there's...
Change. Not only did his definition of change, not only did the definition of God change,
is it an intrinsic or extrinsic change?
What his decisions change? The not physical things that make up God have all changed.
There's literally nothing physical about it. What are you talking about?
The literal not parts. The literal not.
The not parts. The not parts. What are the not parts of theism? Am I like going insane?
Sounds like it.
Like, am I going insane? Because I feel like I sound like a moron when I'm talking right now because there's so much side quests that had to go on to even get here. Like, what is going on?
We'll go.
Woo.
Yeah, falling over yourself sucks, don't it?
No, it's that you're so like I don't understand how you're so confused. Like, I have explained ad nauseum, there is no accidental change. And then I even gave you the different types of change. Like, for example, the other one I gave was intrinsic change. And then when I asked you what, yes, I did, because I clarified what it means for perfect theism and classical theism to require immutability. I gave you those.
Talk over him for 5 minutes. That makes perfect sense. Back into my field of philosophy, back into my cloud, back into the fog. I don't have to answer this big question.
Jesus Christ. There is no big question to answer there. It's just so much confusion. So much confusion.
Because you can't answer it because your position is wrong. And you're an atheist.
Okay, I'll ask again. I'll ask again. I'll ask again. What type of change is it right there?
Again, I mean, I've answered this like 40 fucking times. Do I really have to answer it again? What type of change?
What type of change?
Intrinsic or extrinsic?
What type of change is there? Yeah, the definition of God changed, right?
No, what type?
Trombone, honestly, man, you can have this. I'm gonna take
I don't want to have this.
Type of change. Just give me one type of change.
Like, one example of change?
No, not example. One type of change. One actual clear-cut definition of change. What does change mean? What is the definition of change?
How is that even relevant to the question I asked you?
How is that even relevant? We're discussing something that does or does not change. If we can't define the word change, how do we decipher whether it changes or not?
Okay, look. I was gonna.
Do you have a definition?
I thought Trumbo was gonna give you this, but look. After I give you the definition, you're gonna have to answer like Trombone's question.
What was Trombone's question?
Okay, look. Trombone can answer after I tell you what change in the Thomistic side of philosophy is.
Sure. What's
going to be the actualization of potentiality to actuality.
From potentiality to actuality?
Now, yes. And now after this gets on the table, Trombone, ask your question again.
Yeah. Is the change that you're talking about, is God changing intrinsic or extrinsic?
I don't know what those words are. Inside of God is change, or outside of God is change, is what I think that you're asking. Am I correct? You're asking if the change that is happening is either inside or outside of God, yes?
I mean, you can say that, sure.
Okay, number one, I deny this definition of change. The purpose of a ball is to be thrown, like the actual, I forget the word that you used. The purpose of a ball is to be thrown and hit with a bat, or thrown and put into a hoop. The purpose of a ball is to be bounced, is to be kicked, is to, sit on top of, is to exercise on.
What does purpose have to do with this? What?
So sure, these are all purpose of the ball. Now, if I pop the ball,
no one's asking about purpose.
Ball. What happens if I pop the ball? It didn't follow its purpose.
Look, can you not answer the question?
I reject your definition of change.
Okay. Well, we're talking about God. We're talking about theism. Like this is what the theist position is.
No.
So if you're saying that God is changing,
let me answer you so that you're not confused about.
If theism is true, it wouldn't be possible.
No, let me answer you so you're not confused about my answer. You're asking if change is happening inside or outside of God, and I would say both. Number one, because not only is God changing on the outside, literally moving and creating things around him, he's also changing on the inside, not only definitionally, but literally. Like the things that make him him, the actual stuff, the things that.
Okay, let me try to explain this a little bit. So on classical, or like I guess like scholastic theism, I guess, God only has essential properties. So for God to change, there are no like accidental properties about him. So for God to change, that would be something about his nature changing. Not something about like the state of affairs in the world. All you're describing are things about the state of affairs in the world, not like things about God's nature.
God would be defined by his nature. So the nature of God would be God. The nature of God changed, and therefore God changed.
God would be defined by his. What are you talking about? I don't even understand what you're saying.
The nature, at bare minimum, assuming that he has foreknowledge, the nature of him would be to create everything. That would be his nature. And then he created everything. So does he stop creating, or does he continue to create?
Okay, well, can you just repeat that? I don't really.
Sure. So the nature would be a part of God. God's nature would be something that is inside.
Well, God doesn't have parts on classical theism. He's simple.
Sure, he's simple, but he would still have parts.
No, that's not. If
he was black, he would be red.
What if he simply was what?
Okay, are you saying that a simple thing can't have parts?
Yes, a divine simplicity implies that something has parts, does not have parts. That is the definition of it. Something is divinely simple. It does not have parts.
That's in fact what it makes it simple. Because if it wasn't simple, you would have all of those things you're confused
that is
about.
Analytically true. Like what?
You're saying that a perfect thing, a perfect God, cannot have parts.
It's simple. A perfectly simple thing cannot have parts.
Which premise do you reject? 1, 2, or 3?
What? I didn't hear you.
Can you list out the argument again? I'm really curious.
I know this is hard for you and your college brain, but hear me out.
Okay.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
God is something that does not change and does not have parts. God is a perfect thing without parts. Now, this would mean that God does not have parts. If I can prove that God does have parts, this disproves that God is perfect, therefore it disproves God.
Okay, I'll be really charitable and say that's a modus tollens, if you symbolize it correctly. But okay,
sure.
How are you proving? Okay, so again, how are you proving this?
God is not simple. Only a simple God can exist.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I agree. Look, I agree that would be a valid use of modus tollens. Now, prove that he has parts.
Sure. I would say that his nature is a part of him.
What does that even mean?
That's like saying that God isn't simple because God isn't simple. Like what? How is that an argument?
And look, even if this isn't even to uphold what's meant in divine simplicity.
I'm literally proving my argument valid and true. You're ignoring you're deciding not to engage with it because you can't, because you don't have an answer.
No, you said that God isn't simple because his nature is a part of him.
No, that was one part of the argument. Then I added, is nature the only part of him? Did you ignore the second part of the argument? Is nature a part of God, yes or no?
No, it's not. If God is divinely simple, it doesn't have parts.
Oh, like
what is God made up of? What is God?
He's not made of. He's not made of anything. Like, what does that even mean?
So, can a thing that's not made of anything create everything?
Oh my,
sure. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't be. I don't see why, in this case, theism, he wouldn't be able to.
Because he literally creates everything that comes from nothing. How is that logical?
Being made of something doesn't mean you're nothing. What?
No, he's made of nothing.
Not being made of something doesn't mean you're. That's not even saying that God is nothing. You think divine simplicity means that God is nothing? What?
No, he's literally not made of anything.
He doesn't have parts. He's divinely simple.
The things that he is made up of would be parts.
He's not made up of things.
of parts.
Okay, look.
I just don't think you understand the
Maybe we
concept
should.
of what-
Look, maybe we should define what a part is, because none of what you're giving are proper parts. So part.
That's what I'm giving you proper parts. So his nature is.
Oh no, they're not. They're not proper parts. No, they're not. So part here. Just calm down. Just calm down. So part means any metaphysical component or distinction that composes a being into a whole. I think, if I remember my, I think I'm not really. I don't really like the side of philosophy that much, but if anyone is a Thomas, then maybe correct me, please.
Hand was a part of
I
you.
wish I was. I'm not.
Your hands is a part of you. So is your hand not a part of you? I'm following your logic here.
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, your definition was metaphysical things, right? That make up
Components or distinctions.
the what? Repeat that last part.
Components or distinctions that compose a being into a whole.
Components or distinctions that compose a being into a whole. So you're so literally any part of you would make up all of you, like your hand, your cells, your anything
What?
physical, even in the smallest detail, even the atoms would be a part of you. Yes? Yes? Yes or no? Is it a no then? Did I fall on my face here? What's going on? Yes, literally every part of you would be parts of you, like including cells, including atoms, including molecules, literally everything.
Yes, those would be parts. Those would be components or distinctions within the person. Yeah.
Right. So God has no parts at all.
Yeah, there are no components or distinctions.
Sure. So then, because God has no parts, because God has no molecules, no atoms, no essence, no thing that makes God God, then God.
No. Oh my God.
I'm following your logic here. So if God is
okay. So look, you said without essence? God has an essence. His
What is
essence.
it?
God's essence is identical to God's existence.
Sure. What is it?
It's identical to God's existence.
Sure. What is it?
What the fuck does that even mean?
Something that is essential to a bird's essence is, having wings, light bones, not being so overtly heavy that it can't lift itself off the ground. Unlike a bee that defies the laws of physics, doesn't matter. So what would be an essence?
This is not. I'm not even sure this accurately captures what essence means.
Right, so God has no essence, therefore God does not exist.
No, God has essence, because what essence just means here is that it's going to be the nature or whatness of a thing.
Okay, so God's essence is nature.
No, God's essence is identical to his. Really, I think there's a difference between those two, but I think it's will or God's existence. Someone could correct me, but I don't really need this much philosophy.
God is his will.
To his will, what's our God?
So the thing that makes God...
No, the guy at the top. Wait, someone. The guy at the top. Was it will or essence or his will existence?
Yeah, it's I think it's they usually say God is identical to his nature or something like that.
Sure, so God is identical to his nature. Yes?
No, his act of existence. God is identical to his act of existence. That's what they say.
Okay, what makes him actively existing? There's no thing that makes him actively existing other than him.
Why would there be a thing that makes him actively existing? What are you talking about?
Must be true.
Why would there need to be a thing that makes him actively existing?
Otherwise, he doesn't exist.
What?
Yeah.
So I'll still man it for you because you're not really doing the argument that well. But so basically, what he's saying is that if like nothing has essential properties like in this being, right? There wouldn't be anything like existent within that. So that's all.
Right.
What's the argument for? Well, I'm even skeptical to grant that follows, but what's the argument for that?
Properties to a thing, then that thing does not exist.
Okay. What's the argument for it? For specifically the consequent?
Right. Okay. Everything that does exist has things that define it. Not only define it, but are make up its essence and such. Right? There is nothing in all of creation that does not have parts, that does not have essence. Literally everything has essence. Literally, we can define every essence that everything has. So if something does not have essence, we can say it doesn't exist.
Now, my question is that, let's say if you have an essence of a thing, right? And you take it to be like a statue, for an example, and then you take that statue's finger off, right? Does it lose any of its essence, or does it stay the same?
Well, wait, before you answer that, I want to just clarify that, again, this is not engaging with perfect being theism or classical theism, because God does have essence. Because God is actus purus, I think that's how you say it, or pure act. So
pure act,
he's identical to God's own act of existence.
Okay, so God is identical to his own act of existence, meaning that he has always existed. Yes?
Sure, yes.
Okay, that follows if he wasn't a creator.
And also to his will, someone clarified too. Okay, yeah, to his will. Okay, sorry about that.
All right, okay, so his will, I would say, is a part of him. His will changed, therefore he changed.
When does his will change?
Okay.
His will changes from not creating to dictating.
Oh my god. Does literally anyone can anyone like competent steelman this? I really don't understand why this is a critique.
I don't understand how you can't.
Okay.
Because like you're not familiar with like this side of philosophy, which is fine. I'm not going to degrade you for it, but like I'm familiar with a lot of responses to this reading of philosophy, the scholastic reading. However, the critiques you're giving don't make literally any sense to me because it is stipulated that his essence is identical to his will, right, or something like that.
Right.
And some change.
No, hear me out. His essence is identical to his will. He does not change because he's a perfect being, because his essence is perfect. So he does not change. Now, we can say that he is perfect and does not change, but that doesn't follow if he has literally any part. Any part that you give him would change.
He doesn't have any part. He doesn't have any parts.
He doesn't have a part. That's fine. You can say that he doesn't have parts at all. He is simply not made up of literally anything, and therefore he does not have essence, and therefore he does not exist.
Again, none of those things follow from affirming that divine simplicity is true.
If you want to say that God exists, if you want to say that God exists, you have to give him a definition. You have to give him some sort of definition.
I'm not even sure that's true.
Wait, Fish, what do you think the difference between being existence and like having existence is? Like, I just want to like understand like what you think.
I misunderstand the question.
Yeah, right. So something is existence, right? Or something can have existence. Like, what do you think the like difference is there?
Something is existence or has existence.
Yeah,
what do I think?
A lot of like people will like a lot of like Thomistic like.
Well, I mean, the definition would be existence in general and existing alone. Like you exist not only as a whole, but as a society, as an animal, as animals, as a planet, as planets in a solar system, and then existing alone would just be you existing on a certain part of Earth. That's the best answer.
What I'm saying is right, like. Typically under like Thomistic like theism, right? We would say God is existence, right? Because only created things have existence, right? Meaning that like they are given that existence, right? If God is existence itself, right, then he cannot be given like he wouldn't be given that.
There's no contingency there.
Yeah.
God is existence himself. That's a definition of God. God being existence himself follows if he's not the creator. If he is the creator, then there was a position.
Wait, where are you getting that?
I think you're using existence differently.
This is like so much like look. What's so crazy is that like literally anyone that could speak up will probably have different critiques of any of this.
You're interrupting
that's
me.
so crazy.
I'm not interrupting you. I'm not interrupting
you. Yes, because look, that's because this has been so charitably interpreted of what you're saying, right? But then, like when we actually apply to what we just told you, it's the same confusion over and over and over again.
Because it's an unflawed argument. There's no.
You didn't even give. Look, wait.
What's your
wait? When you say
argument?
argument, do you mean a formal argument? Because if so, you gave none.
Okay, I gave a seriously clear-cut
Can you say it? I didn't hear it.
And a conclusion.
And also, wait. Before you give it, what was the inference rule?
What was the inference rule? What's an inference rule?
Look.
Philosophy.
Look. I will tell you. When you say, I interpreted to what you're saying as giving an argument as giving a formal argument. You could say it's an informal argument if you really want to escape this and preserve that, right? But
I'm sorry, I can hear you.
But look. Look. An inference rule. Look, an inference. It's an inference rule here is going to be, in the layest sense, a form of reason, or it's a pattern of reasoning that leads to a conclusion. That would work for almost every part of this, right? There's many instances of an inference rule, right?
Sure.
There's one like mode exponents.
Inference rule. Let me give you my inference rule. Yes? Okay. So the inference rule is, if you give God literally any part, then he changes, unless it's a part that I can't think of. Like literally, if you give him any part at all, that is literally, like logically true. Like if you give God a logically true aspect of his being, then it probably changes.
Well, no parts were given.
And also
or assigned or anything like that.
No, because if you assign parts, then you're not talking about God. Look. Let's just go down the simplest.
God, yes.
Yes. Let's just go. Let's just go down the simplest thought experiment.
No, that's a different argument with a different inference.
No, it's not, because this is what it means to be. Oh my God, this is literally the whole thesis of divine simplicity. What are you talking about? This is not a different inference rule. And again, what you gave was not that. So that's why I'm saying let's just go down this very simply and very methodically, right? So do you agree or disagree that essence is as separable from existence?
Essence is separable from existence? I don't agree. I think that in order for you to exist, you have to have an essence.
Okay, so then your critiques don't apply to theism because simplicity denies that part. That's in fact what makes it simple, because it denies that, right?
Exactly.
GG's.
Right, so a simple thing, just a simple thing without parts, it exists because you think of it existing?
No. Okay, look. When we say divine simplicity, what do you think we're talking about? Maybe this is the stem of the confusion, because we're not really getting clear in the semantics.
Like a thing that is literally so simple that it would have the fewest amount of parts, or the fewest amount of definitions, or the smallest.
There's no few. There are no parts.
It has no parts.
Amount of parts.
You can't even say fewest. You're outside of.
For something to exist, it has to have at least one part.
No, so you're applying contingency in existence, but if you're saying that it's the same,
meaning that it doesn't have a part.
It still doesn't break what you said earlier.
Argument for something needing a part to exist.
Right. Okay. So here's my argument. Here. Okay.
Now I'll write it down for you.
If God exists,
wait, hold on. If God exists,
if
then
God has no parts, he doesn't exist.
Wait, if God exists, what was the first thing you said? If God exists, then what?
It's a stupid argument.
No. Re-say it. If God exists, then what?
That God does not exist because he has no parts. You're saying God has no parts. My conclusion can only be that God does not exist.
Hold on. Are you saying
again? I think I asked you three times.
Hold on. I got you, Pensive. I got you. So, are you saying that if God has parts, then he exists, and if God has no parts, then he doesn't exist. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. God can still have parts and exist, but if we can prove that he's not perfect, then we can also prove that he doesn't exist. If he has parts, he changes. He's not perfect. If he doesn't have parts and he doesn't change, we can say he doesn't exist because he's not made up of anything.
If he had parts, he would be imperfect anyway. Like,
This is completely illogical to even think that God exists, because in no scenario of my logical reasoning can God exist.
Okay, what's the argument? What's the argument? No. Look, you don't even know what I'm asking. Just calm down. What's the argument that God requires parts for the principle you employed here?
If God had no parts, then there would be no part of God. God not being made up of literally anything. God would not be made up of
that's
things.
trivially true, obviously.
Just to restate the view, like in the same way that if I'm talking to like a moral realist and I'm like, okay, so the argument is just that, oh, you think that moral...
Here, let me put it in a different way, so maybe this will help. Name me something that exists that does not have parts, that is not God, and if you can't do that, God must have parts because he is something that is also...
No, if divine simplicity is true, God would have to be the only thing that doesn't have parts.
That would be the only thing that makes him perfect.
Yeah, that is what makes him God.
You're making the argument for God in your like critique, honestly.
Sure. Can we define God in any way, shape, or form?
Can we define him? I think what we're doing is reasonable enough to call a definition and really get on the table what it means for God to be pure act.
Because you can define something, then it's true?
What?
I don't understand.
See, we're back to fairies now.
True in what sense?
What does that even mean?
I'm saying... What am I saying?
I don't know. You don't even know. Like that's such an issue.
Doesn't have parts doesn't exist. Your view that God doesn't have to have parts because he's perfect and perfect things don't have parts. I can name you literally millions of things that do have parts that are not God. God would be the only thing.
Yes, that is what the view is. That is the case. Under divine simplicity, God is the only thing that doesn't have parts.
Divine simplicity.
Literally no proponent.
Being simple is what makes him God.
Right.
Like literally no one will ever deny that. And if they do, they're like severely R-worded.
Number one, if he's the creator, he has parts.
What's the argument for that? Okay, well look, maybe we're charitable. What part does he have?
Bare minimum, reason, knowledge. So he has to have something about him that creates other things. He also has to have purpose. He has a bunch of parts.
Man. Okay. Do you recall when I defined you what a part is?
I rejected your definition of a part.
Okay, and you substituted it for what? What's a part here?
I don't remember your definition of a part.
No. I mean your definition.
Literally,
I'm ignoring the question, Megan, for a good reason.
Literally anything that makes up the being that exists. You said physical parts like atoms and cells and shit. I believe.
Well, I didn't agree to that.
That's what makes me whole. That's what makes me.
Look. Okay, look. I'll just say, well, whatever. Do you think God depends on like assemblies or actualizations of things?
Absolutely.
Okay, what is
God, guys.
That's in fact why I asked that question, right? That's not God, right? And also, what thing do you think God depends on? That is, again, either an assembly or actualization.
Creation.
You think God depends on creation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when we gave the definition of his essence being identical to his will or his existence?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So If it's his will, then his will changed, and if it's his existence, then his state of existence changed.
No, they're the same.
If God changes,
Those are okay.
They would be the same.
so we can prove he's not perfect.
Ease, do you want to like just talk to him, or do you want to?
I mean,
Well, hey,
I wanna talk
let me
to
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question before y'all go. Fish, let me ask you a question. So, the number 2 is even, prime, and abstract. Would you say those are parts?
yes.
Okay, yeah, that's where we would disagree.
Okay, why?
Do you think attributes are parts?
It depends on what you're describing.
Okay. I just answer like.
Those aren't
do you think there's any case where
distinct
attributes can be parts?
Jay.
Physical attributes, absolutely. Mental attributes, yeah, we can say that those are parts too. We can say that being smart is a part of what makes you you. Being knowledgeable of
Oh
your
my
past.
God. I see the issue.
Oh Lord.
I literally see the issue. You're taking like the definition of things off like Google. I see the issue now. This is entirely the issue. When I see it now. So whenever you look at views that come out of the scholastic period, typically you engage, and you don't have to, of course. Usually you can just ask for the argument of their usage of terms. But wait. I literally see the issue now.
Sure.
When proponents of divine simplicity argue for divine simplicity, they are not saying his attributes, or they're not saying his attributes are parts. It's that God is his attributes identically. He doesn't possess them separable or additional things. They are identical to God's simple essence. So if attributes were parts, then God would depend on them, which implies potency and composition, right? But one that contradicts aseity and unity. So if you were to argue for these,
Right.
you need to find you need to find where internally in divine simplicity implies those things, which is again the denial of aseity and unity. Aseity, sorry, my bad.
Sure. I mean, the argument was going to be the same no matter how long that definition went on for. But literally, you're rejecting that the things that are not physical that make you you are not you. And to that, I would reply, does your past make you who you are? And if so, then you are not physical parts of yourself. And therefore, God could be not physical parts of himself.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Physical parts of God? What? Oh my.
Okay, hold on.
I said not physical.
My God.
Remember, I said not physical. If you have not physical parts, then what is to say that God cannot have not physical parts?
I literally explained why he couldn't.
Okay, and I literally explained to you that the things that make you you are not entirely.
I don't care about me. Why are you applying principles that apply to things like humans that are contingent and the act and potency division applies to them when the being in question doesn't?
Okay, so
what are you doing?
Does not change. Yes? And then we can prove that he does change. Yes? And then
No, we can't. No, we can't.
You haven't proven it.
You haven't done anything but just like flail your arms in the water like an actual fish.
You want to apply characteristics that would probably make
the basis of my argument that can't be disproven no matter what. I think that this argument is so perfect and so valid
You're
that
very
there's no
confused.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's so convincing, man.
Wait, it's valid? Wait, it's valid? Sorry. What sense of validity is it valid in? Syntax or semantic?
Oh, big philosophy words. Back to retreat.
Yeah, don't say things you don't know. This is also another issue, right? When you say it's valid, you're implying those two things, or you're implying one over the other, right?
Sure. Define those words for me.
Yeah, so then don't say words you don't use.
Oh, so I'm not allowed to use words in the English?
No, it's not. No, you can, but you don't know what you're talking about. That's the issue.
Well, I do know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I don't know the definition of a word. Does that make me stupid?
No, it doesn't. It just means
Nobody
you're
even
confused.
said that to you.
It's just. Well, I'm skeptical that I've said that on mute, but I and other words, but
and other words.
Yeah, but we're not saying. Well, okay, they aren't saying that. When you say validity, there are two senses of validity here.
Validness.
And what does valid mean?
Must be true.
Wait,
Hold on.
Basic definition. I don't know the textbook definition.
Okay, wait. Look, let me retract what I said to you, because that actually is one sense of validity. That's the semantic part of validity.
Sure.
But really, it's true under all interpretations. But we can suffice with that. But
sure.
Okay. Now, when you gave the argument originally, there was. It's really, I was being charitable and calling it a modus tollens, but even ignoring all this still isn't engaging with the whole parts thing. Because okay, look, do you agree God depends on things, or do you disagree?
Do I agree that God depends on things?
Or disagree?
I would say that his definition certainly depends on things, and so by what's the word?
No. Not his definition. I mean God.
Does God depend on
definition? Yes.
Bare minimum, he depends on logic.
Okay, what does that mean? To depend on logic. What does that mean?
Bare minimum, like absolute bullshit minimum. He depends on logic. Like he has to be.
Okay. No. What does that? No. What does it? I asked you. What does it mean to depend on logic? What does that mean?
Right. So in order for him to exist at all, his existence has to be logical.
Okay. And oh my God. Okay. And why do you think this is a part?
Logic itself, maybe logic itself wouldn't be a part.
Okay, it wouldn't be a part.
No, but I mean that doesn't mean that a thing without parts wouldn't be able to depend on it.
No, that you're taking attributes that we assign to theism and you're calling them parts.
No, I'm saying the attributes that you are giving to theism are the parts of God. Like I'm not.
Okay, what you just said is identical to what I said you were doing.
Sure. In a way.
Okay, so then it's not no, right? And also, like, what's the argument that attributes are parts?
I explained this one easily. The things that make you are not entirely physical. The things that your attributes are also something that makes you who you are. Your brains, your skills, your not physical attributes. Your past, for example. You were somebody different in the past. You were a completely different person. Your past is somebody who makes up the thing that you are today. You don't have to be made of physical parts. You can also be made of also not physical parts. And this
no, you're not hearing him though.
I'm not hearing him. I believe he's not hearing me.
No, I'm saying he's not hearing you.
That's right. Or really, most scholastic views that came out of that period would deny that those things make God metaphysically composite rather than like something else.
I would question all of their work.
Fine. What's interesting is that when you do imply all of these things, you're one, it's sort of going in the realm of question begging, and two, it's not really engaging with the view. Because like all we're just asking is that given we have a thing about divine simplicity, right? If God would depend on things, this would also go against like other like core tenets of divine simplicity and the
well, I mean, if he depended on things, that would just make him contingent. Unless you're
it denies aseity, it denies unity, it denies like so much of the view, right? And also
the view that he can be perfect. It literally proves in a way that he can't be perfect.
No, this is not what perfect here means, right? Like, and so
So perfect means doesn't change because it's already perfect.
Okay, look, that's fine, right? Look, that's sort of correct. But when when people at divine simplicity say no parts, we just mean there is no internal like assembly or composition in God at any level.
And to that, I would say that he depends on, at bare minimum, logic.
You don't. What does that mean?
So
it means he has to logically exist.
Okay, let me ask you.
I want to say something real quick. Because I want to make sure our principles are in line here and we're actually tracking what Pensive is trying to put forth here. So, like, let's take an apple, right, and we put it on the table, all right, and you have one apple. Now, you could essentially name 3 things about this apple, right? You can say the apple is red. You can say the apple is round. You can say the apple is sweet, right? That's 3 things.
More things about the apple.
Right. So let me ask you a question. When I describe the apple as red and round and sweet, am I talking about 3 different apples or 1 apple?
You're talking about the same apple.
Right. Okay. So when you get into those distinctions, right, or that you're making, right, it's something that you're observing about the thing, right? So it'll be the contingent thing viewing that, but it's still one simple thing. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So that's what we're trying to get towards here, right? Is
okay. Sure.
When it comes to the divine
would a seed be a part of an apple?
You said what?
Would a seed be a part of an apple?
You said a seed?
Yeah, would a seed, the thing that the apples grow from, would the seed be an apple? Would the seed be an apple tree? Would the apple have once been a seed?
Wait, how is this relevant?
Could we say that the seed is a part of the apple?
Wait, how is this relevant?
That the apple is what makes the apple an apple.
Fish. That's wait. So if you take out the seed, it's no longer an apple?
No, I'm saying, can we say that this apple was once a seed? It's passed as a part
what?
of its future. It's past that bare minimum part of it.
Wait, what? You're just describing a timeline of events. That's not a part. That's not a composition. Dude, wait, Fish, do you know anything about mereology? Because I feel like you're spouting out all this nonsense because you don't know anything about mereology.
Okay, just because it grows into something new doesn't
You just ignore my question. Yo, Fish, what is mereology?
I have no fucking clue.
Okay, well then why are you talking about parts in their like compositions in their wholes?
Oh, we're cheating back into the fog.
What, treating back in the fog? You're literally just talking about this stuff, and you don't know what mereology is.
Mereology is, you must be wrong.
No,
because you have no ground to talk about this. If you don't know this,
look, we can give like a reason. Look, are you an expert in like? Do you know are you an expert in like cars? Are you a car mechanic?
Am I a car mechanic? No.
Yeah. Okay. Would you, let's say like half your vehicle got blown the fuck up. Are you going to fix it or is someone else going to fix it?
Someone else is going to fix it.
Okay. And you wouldn't belligerently like degrade and like insult their intelligence by at least not like having the respect of not like respecting their work, right? You would obviously be like, okay, yeah, this is where I top out, like here.
So
right?
I was making an argument for the not physical parts of the apple being being parts of the apple. Now I was using its past, but we could use literally anything.
Wait. Why did you just like dodge all that? Right. The point I was making is just that like people here have obviously read into most of this stuff. Right. My knowledge of scholasticism is getting to an end though, because again, I don't think this is. I find this feel like really boring, but these people could probably talk to you at more depth with this, but what I'm telling you is that, and what they're telling you is that if you don't at least have a basic understanding of what's being said here, you're going to get lost very easily, and it's not going to be productive because, one, you're talking to someone who knows the field, and then when they try to interpret what you're saying, they're not going to end up getting what you're saying because you don't know what you're saying, and you don't understand the reasoning behind it. That's all he was trying to get at.
Behind what I'm saying, I feel like it's perfect and simple. Like
it's not. That's the thing. You think that that's true, but it's really not. Like it really isn't.
Explain to me how it's not.
Because I can list all the fields of philosophy you just dropped in those things, right? And like that's the issue when you're not read into any of them. It builds. Just calm down. Just calm down. Why are you spazzing out? You're like aping out. Just calm down.
You don't understand what I'm saying.
Just calm down. Just calm down. Just calm down.
And hear me out.
Well, yeah, because I was telling you why I was answering your question. Unless you want to like go into a shouting fest, which I'll absolutely win. But
you will not win a shouting fest.
or a rhetoric match, I would absolutely like clog you in a rhetoric match.
The only way you'd be able to do that is if you'd mute me, which I have no doubt you can do.
I can't. I'm not a mod here.
Oh, well then, no. If this was fair and equal terms, you would not be able to.
Okay, that's excluding that.
I can.
But in any case, the reason it's really complicated is because you don't know the associated fields that come with this practice of philosophy. When you talk about scholasticism as a whole, there's a lot of different fields you should be acquainted with when you speak about it. One is Mariology, usually to a degree, formal and meta-ontology, and metaphysics as a broader sense, and other things as well, right? Just to name a few.
Sure, I mean,
you don't know any of those things. So when you try to talk to someone who is a proponent of the scholastic line of thinking, and they're using what they know about those concepts, and when we clog it with yours, can you see why it gets so complicated off the bat? Because no one knows what's going on? Because
not entirely. I can simply jot down those words, look up the definitions, use those definitions, and
do it. Then why haven't you been doing that? Like, I'm so lost. Like, why haven't you been doing that? Because I've during this conversation, I have name dropped you so much different fields that divine simplicity and other fields of philosophy get at, and it just seems like you get more confused the deeper we talk. Unless like someone else disagrees with that. I'm pretty sure almost everyone would agree with that.
Yeah, you haven't been doing that, Fish.
I feel like I have.
No, feeling is different from doing.
I mean, if you guys weren't,
okay, look.
Jumping into big.
Well, I mean, like we can try it out right now. Like we can try it out right now. So we can try it out. Like so when we invoked divine simplicity,
I didn't feel like you were retreating. Instead,
no one's retreating. This is how the view is understood and defended. No one's retreating. It's just that when you get to a point in the conversation where you don't understand what's being said, and we get a little frustrated, you just say we're retreating.
Yo, by the way, I just want to add, wait, Fish, you said something interesting. You said you could just look them up. Do you know the different types of like definitions? I know one of them is going to be idiosyncratic definitions. It's going to be subject to the person. So there's a textbook definition, idiosyncratic, and then there's another one, I can't remember. But whenever we're using these definitions, we're going to be using them in lines with the field of study that we're talking about. Like classical theism, I wouldn't say that it defines like a part to a whole the same way that, if you look it up on Safari, like what is a part? Like you could define it differently and you could be misusing it. Like you're going to have to use it in line when we're making like this internal argument that God is like logically impossible.
Counterpoint. Any definition that you've given me, I've not only agreed with, but I followed through with.
No, you literally said you rejected Pensive's what are you talking about?
You said you rejected the way Pensive defined parts.
And change and also you rejected a lot of what I was telling you, which is fine because I do the same thing, but I don't do what you do, right? Look, the issue of this is that you're walking into the scholastic line of thinking, so you're gonna have to use the way they use the terms, or else you're not.
You have to give me an example of a definition that you use that I rejected, other than the one obvious rejection.
Change. I told you, I utilized the action potency. I utilized the action potency distinction as my usage of change, right?
So the actual physical parts of
no. You're not even acquainted with the action potency distinction.
I'm just trying to be as clear as I possibly can on your.
Look, what do you mean? I'm trying to talk. Okay, do you want to define it for him?
Wait, what do you mean active potency distinction? Are you talking about EED? I might be confused because
Well,
I'm not a Thomist, so I can speak on anything that's going to be like concerning ADS. But
well, I define change as the actualization of a potentiality. I'm not sure if that's like the definition scholastics would use, but my knowledge of scholasticism is very narrow.
The actualization of potentiality.
or you could just say potency. You could just say potency.
Actual.
Or something like that, because there's two types of change. There's intrinsic and extrinsic. These could be potent.
Yeah.
Like potency just means potential. Like we say that God has no internal potency, which is gonna be because he's fully actualized, so he can't change at all. There can be no change in God because he has no internal potency. Now, like extrinsic, like external potency, he does have because he can enact potency out on the world. Say that God wants a storm to happen. The storm will happen because he has external potency. That doesn't change him. That just changes. Like Pensive has been saying this. It's the state of affairs within the world. That's just the two types of potency. That's what change would be if those if that potency was actualized.
So something that is within him that changes would be an internal change.
What, did you not track what I just tried to explain to you?
I'm just trying to ask.
No, okay. Look, that's not really a good clarifying question because that's not even pertaining to like what I just told you. I'm explaining you what we view as change, like what kind of Pensive said. So internal potency and external potency. Potency just means potential. Imagine something going from not actualized to being actualized. That's a change within potency because the potency was actualized. We believe that there can be no actualization, a change in actualization, because God is already fully actualized internally in his nature. That's why we call him good. That's why we call him perfect.
Sure. I would say that a change is, how would I put this? I would say that a change in his nature would be an internal, whatever you called it.
Yeah. That's if there is any change, that'd be.
I need to write this down.
Well, like I also like this. Well, like the to my understanding, the notion of change usually has like three principles bundled in with it. So like it's usually like a subject that like does like that persists, which is the change itself. And the privation or the absence of or lack being lost and the new actuality that's gained. I'm not sure, like, I'm not fully sure that if we show, well, just
before I forget it, I want to just spit this out. Okay. Look, so his internal potential would be creation. After he created his potential might still be creation, but it's also determining factors in literally everything. So he went from an internal not dictating the world and instead just creating it. Well, I guess that wouldn't follow because he would be dictating the world as he was creating it.
Well, look, okay, so your whole thing assumes that his will is going to change. We don't say that his will change. I would say that he's always going to be a creator, right? Because his will is to create. Right now, you could probably say that it's gonna lead to some modal collapse, if you know what that means. But I wouldn't say that his will changes at all. So there can't be any internal change at all. Because I mean I'm not a Thomist. I'm inquiring orthodoxy, so I don't fully believe that he's completely identical to his will. But I would say in a sense his essence is identical to his will.
You're saying that the change would be a potential in something. So change,
the actualization of potential.
Yeah. I'm saying that it's an external change within creation. Because then again, you're presupposing that any change can happen. I would just say time is some type of measurement of change.
The definition of change, he would still have potential. He would still have internal potential, just as he has external potential. So his internal potential, not being a dictator or even being a dictator, any internal potential that you give him, change, sure.
No, he has no internal potential. I just said that. He has none. He has none. It's all fully actualized.
Sure, but will would be internal.
I just told you that.
Right. So his will would have potential. So no? Am I missing something?
Yes, because yes,
his will never changes. It doesn't have potential. What?
Look. Okay, so what you're mixing up is you're mixing up the will between the action. There's going to be a distinction in willing something and actualizing said will. So the actualization is going to be this external act, right? So it's not internal. God still wills to create. He just created, right? So it's not a will and not creating, then creating. So I don't... His will is going to be actualized. Yeah, well, I mean, actualized in this sense would just mean like, he's fulfilling his will, I'd say, in a sense. I'm not too good on like the semantics of everything. So
I'm also not sure that, like, whenever you use this notion of change, you sort of have to remember the motivation for the Aristotelian and the Thomistic reading of change, right? Yeah. So when you just like Fish, when you would give these examples, and we would uphold the distinction, it's not so clear that, like, even if this turns out to be true, you're not getting like what you're using for free, right? Because remember, if I remember, the whole reason for the act and penalty distinction was like Parmenides' paradox, right? And the resolution was that you distinguish potentiality from act, right? So change is a thing and potential, so you can say it's capable of becoming X, right? What's unclear is that even if this weren't, even if you were to falsify these views, you still have an issue of solving these types of other issues that the view does solve, right? Unless you just want to show that theism is false and then go and fuck off with your own thing. But like a motivation to accept this line of thinking would be that it also solves these other types of paradoxes that are very, very popular, right? Which is another reason to adopt the view. It's probability raising for theism, right? So that's another piece of evidence that you would have to work around.
I mean, even if it is probability raising for theism, that doesn't mean that theism is true. It just means it's probability raising. It's more possible for theism to exist, sure, but that doesn't mean that theism exists.
Okay, wait.
I would have to pick a religion, and most of the religions that I would pick would be deeply flawed. The only reason I could pick this definition of God is if I were to reject every other definition of God except for this one, and that would literally
because we do.
Right. So that would literally be the only reason that I would accept theism to begin with. But I'm still trying to think of the change that happens internally in God. I've kind of been stuck on it. My argument is going to change based on the definitions that you've given me. And I can understand you've had this definition for a while, and okay, maybe I really didn't understand it. But if I do understand it now, and I can think of an internal change that God has, that would also disprove God.
I mean, if you were to show that, most proponents of people would not hold to the view. And also, this isn't even a way you would falsify these types of thinking. Like the most common way you would object to these scholastic views is with ontological pluralism and your meta-ontology. Most people don't like that. Right. But this whole thing will change. I don't want to make the claim that almost no philosopher does this, but it's really unorthodox to do it like this because especially because if you aren't very acquainted with the notions of change that are being relayed here. Right. Which, and remember the argument I gave before was just the mono-ontological argument. We went down this road of change. But even if it is the case that maybe we're confused about how we define God, in virtue of the argument, it still goes through because you didn't really object to the structure or the content of it. You just
I completely disagree with the structure of God. Saying that he's not made up of any parts means
that's not meant by structure. I mean the logical form of it.
Like the logical form of your argument?
Yeah. It's a valid argument.
I mean, some of the arguments that you gave were just simply fucking stupid.
Which one?
Non-existence can't not exist.
What? That wasn't an argument I gave.
Okay, the non-existence does exist, as what the argument was. So if non-existence exists, then God...
Wait, that's not an argument.
What?
That's not an argument I gave.
He's remembering what Clark was running earlier.
Oh, the argument I gave for theism was just that necessarily if God exists, then God exists necessarily. Possibly God exists, therefore God exists.
The S5, I would say.
It's really the B axiom. I don't want to knowledge gap you though.
That argument presupposes God's existence.
It presupposes. Wait.
Nah, it's not a presupposition.
No, you're not gonna be able to run that argument if he doesn't know about like modal logic. Yo, Fish, do you know anything about modal logic?
I probably heard of it before. Probably used it before. Refresh my memory.
Okay,
so modal logic is just going to be like logic based upon like not probabilities but like possible worlds. So this argument is just going to say that if God exists, and by the way, for something to exist in a possible world, all that it has to be is logic. So if something is logical, then it can exist within a possible world. So the definition of God is that God is necessary, right? Okay, wait, yeah, I need to teach you the S5 before I say anything. So the S5. The S5
I don't even know why.
It's not enough. I
don't even know why y'all let
you can get something equivalent by taking KTB.
So look, you y'all. I honestly don't even think you should go over S5 for real with him.
We don't have to.
The only reason why I say that is because if he doesn't think God is logically possible, it's no sense of him even.
Oh yeah,
wait, that's not even true because he agreed it's logically possible in the conversation.
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh, he agreed.
Hold on, Pensive. You're right because y'all kind of. But when he first came on, he wasn't saying that.
And also, we don't
like Clark had to kind of get it, like reel it out of him to even say that. I think he still thinks
because I'm more acquainted with logic in general than scholasticism. But look, your response to we don't need S5. We just need something that functions equivalent to S5. You can do something like that with K, T, and 4 and B. Which are these types of modal logics are built off different systems of modal logic. So the most simplest one is the K system. What you do with this argument is that if you agree, well, let's just hash it out to begin with. Do you agree that God is possible?
Do I agree that God is possible?
Yes.
I mean, in a sense, sure, with the definition of God that you had given, sure, that definition of God is more than possible. But I wouldn't say that would point to his creation or him being a creator. It just, yeah.
So here's a nice thing about it. If you look at these types of modal logics, all we really need is that the B axiom's true, which is that if something's possibly necessary, or something along those lines, then it's necessary. Then it be necessary is true or something. If that's true, then the argument I gave goes through, and God does exist, right? Because
that's like total nonsense. You're saying because it's possible, then there's a situation in which it's true, and because it is possible, it's true.
No, okay, wait. So it's called the modal ontological argument because it's looking at modal possibilities and then arguing ontology. Do you know the ontology of God? So the ontology, one part is that he's going to be necessary. What does necessary mean?
Must be in existence for all.
Exactly. So my question: if necessary means that God cannot fail to exist, can he fail to exist in another possible world?
That's, I mean, how do I put this? Well, I just don't see a way that God is necessary.
That's his ontology. It's just presupposed.
Hold on, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Fish. So let me hold on, let me ask you a question before you fully commit, right? So would you agree that something contingent wouldn't be necessary in all possible worlds?
Yes.
All right. And so then on the reverse of that, right? Okay, would you agree that something non-contingent would be self-sustaining and possible? I mean, or it would exist in all worlds. So like if it has a feature of non-contingency, like it wouldn't fail to exist in this world because it would be self-sustaining.
I mean, do I have contingencies?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying something that's non-contingent, right? Not anything that is contingent, because you would be contingent.
Contingent, or am I not?
You are contingent.
Well, then the answer is no. I don't exist in all possible worlds.
Right. Okay. Now, if God is necessary and then also described as non-contingent, right? If he fails to exist in some possible world, right? Would he be contingent or non-contingent?
If he fails to exist in any possible world,
Yeah. If this guy, if this, yeah. So if we describe something as something not like necessary, being meaning that it can't fail to exist, right? Right. If we describe something as necessary, meaning they wouldn't fail to exist, but if this God fails to exist, would he be considered contingent or non-contingent?
Contingent, right?
Okay. All right. Now, if he doesn't fail to exist, right, would he be contingent or non-contingent?
If he doesn't fail to exist in this world, well, I guess then he wouldn't fail to exist in any other world.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is why, like, the operator if and only if, right? Modal or not the modal operator, but the operator of if and only if. This is why, like, with premise one, like, this is what I'm trying to tell you, like, you like as an atheist, my advice to you is to reject premise one. Okay, if you're going to reject premise one, then you would. I'm sorry.
I think I did.
Okay, right, and that's what I was telling Pensive earlier, and that's what now Pensive. This is where I'll hand it off to you because now you'll kind of see clearly what's going on.
I don't understand how you can say that God is necessary for existence. You would have to prove that God is necessary.
Not saying that God is necessary for existence. That's not what.
That's not the statement. We're saying that the definition of God is non-contingent. That's what we're saying. We're saying that he is a non-contingent being, and we believe that since we believe it's possible that he's non-contingent, then we believe that he would exist in this world. That's all we're saying.
Well, then I actually don't agree, because then you have to show that he's not I mean, there's he can just run the reverse ontological argument.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah,
So he can be like, necessarily if God exists, God don't exist.
Yeah, but
necessarily. God possibly does not exist, therefore God does not exist. Right?
Look.
I don't agree with checking the necessary stuff, because, well, one, if he doesn't really know the scholastics or like other lines of thinking that say God's necessary, it's just doomed for disaster. And also, it's much easier to understand alethetic modal logic, and to, instead of like just looking at all these different widespread views on necessity with theism.
But how would you prove? Like, how would you really argue, right, for something being necessarily non-existent? Like,
you can give an OCM inference for it.
What would that be?
Well, so in this case, like, an OCM, or really any other type of inference like it, like, you can just say that this is really what we mean by God, like, it's analytic in some sense. And also, I agree with using parity arguments, in this sense, because it's much easier to understand what the argument's doing. And also, it's just really funny that you can parody these types of arguments. It's just really funny to me.
Like, if somebody were to use this, like, I could just say, like, your definition of God, like, he absolutely must exist, but he doesn't necessarily have to be the God in the Bible. Well, then why would I worship this God? That's
your motivations like wouldn't prove whether or not this guy's exists. So
yeah, and look, I can walk you down through the monontological argument, because it is kind of popular. I don't know why it's getting more popular back on here, but you have to understand that at first that there's many types of modal logics. The one we're doing here is really with alethetic modal logic, which is basically the logic of possibility and the necessity and calling possible worlds. And a possible world here is just a genuine way the world could have been, but it's not the world we find ourselves in. Like, we can imagine of a world like that's identical to ours, but instead only white people exist. That's a possible world, right?
That could be a real impossible world.
Yeah, it could be a possible world, because what we mean by possible is that there's really not a contradiction in the thing being that way.
There really is, though.
Well, there's a contradiction in only white people existing.
Yeah, like the only way that would have been the case would be like for something to have literally been in space for so long that it loses all color because of lack of sunlight. So
what do you think a contradiction to me? What Fish? What do you think a contradiction to me?
What's taking you to the contradiction?
No, what do you mean when you say contradiction?
There can't be a world where only white people exist. The contradiction would be that literally anything could evolve on that planet, literally anything. So for only one type of person to evolve on that planet would be
that's not the right modality. That's not the right modality. So look, there's this word of modality that's thrown around a lot. It's something that just tells us in what sense do we mean the word, right? The words you should look out for are cannot be, can, possible, necessary, things like it. The modality here is the logical modality, which just means that, or metaphysical. What those are, or what the metaphysical modality is pretty complicated. But
it just sounds
the logical modality. Well, wait. The logical modality here just means that, speaking from the purview of classical logic, it does not break a law of logic from there, really. And there is no contradiction. Like, for example, there's 3 laws of logic. You have identity, so a thing is itself. Excluded middle, something can only be true or false. There's no third option. And non-contradiction, which is where a proposition has the affirmation, something is true, and the negation of it in the same respect, right? It's logically possible that we can conceive of a world with only white people, ignoring all the nomological issues. Nomological is going to be the stuff regarding the laws of nature.
Actually exists now.
What?
Conceive, sure. We can logically conceive of a world full of only white people.
Then it would be possible. It'd be logically possible. We can logically.
That's all we're saying. It's possible.
But it can't possibly be possible because
it is possible because look. As I clarified,
I'm trying to think.
This is only about logic. The stuff about life and evolution and all those things is irrespective of this.
Like, it might be physically impossible. Like, it might contradict the laws of nature. That's possible, but it's still logically possible. There's a different types of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to accept that and we move on.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not really something like really uncontroversial to accept as well. It's just like there's different senses, or there's different types of possibility, right? And some are like, if one's true, then probably the other one's not true, right? But this is how you would teach it, like an intro course. So there's nothing about the modal ontology. Like, if you would agree that's true, like there's nothing that like forcibly happens, like in the modal ontological argument. It's just getting you acquainted like with the types of thinking that goes alongside it. That make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. I just have to accept that there is a type of possibility that isn't physically possible. It's more like mentally possible. We're not
logically.
Yeah, because here's the thing, like, and this is where everyone separates in the conversation. Because since I accept premise 1, like everything is going to follow from that. But like, if you don't accept that God is logically possible, then I think you could offer the parity argument. But I don't think you can accept premise one, then offer the parity. I think you should reject it, then offer the parity. And that way it's like kind of clear what you're like doing. Because it's like, because it's really for the believers to accept and like understand the rationale of it, right? It's not really
it's more of an argument to like God is logical.
Because what y'all asking for is really to be compelled by the argument, and that's not going to happen because like what compels you can change. So that's like really a contingent thing. So like you're compelled, like let's say if I compel you, right, that eating chocolate covered ants is good, right? Well, you being compelled by that, right, even before eating that, right, doesn't mean that you'll like enjoy those ants, right, or anything like that, like, or that it like
that is oddly specific.
But but I'm just saying like, yeah, but I'm just saying like, I'm freestyling, but I'm just saying that like, yeah, there's some things that like whether you're compelled to believe something or not, like it doesn't really describe whether it's true or not, right? And so that's the issue. Like, so it's kind of like up to you to kind of like accept whether or not God exists or not. Now, if you accept God exists, then the MOA would, follow. If you don't accept God exists, then the MOA won't follow.
Well, okay, look, Fish, I feel like you're like kind of confused because I keep hearing like you're talking about like P1. Do you know what it means for like a argument to be valid but unsound?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So this is a logically valid argument if and only if all of the propositions follow, then it's true. But what you're having to contend is with one of the propositions it's not premises. Sorry, I always mix up that word. So one of the premises, right? So with the first premise, you have to reject that as unsound, or the conclusion follows, and God is real. So you can't say anything about like it just doesn't follow because it's logically valid.
The form of the argument is like truth preserving, but like the content could be like
the content could be unsound. Yeah. So unsound just means that any of the premises are false. So if you can't prove to us, or like if you concede that all the premises are like sound, then you have to concede that God is real. Given
premises are sound, it's a blunder. The heck? Premises can be sound? I thought arguments were sound.
Soundness is a property of arguments. Yeah. Soundness is a property of arguments. But in respect with the MOA though, Fish, really
engage with me? No.
What was that?
I had an argument. Yeah, I said you want to engage with me.
I was talking to Fish. Sorry. I'm talking to Fish right now, so I gotta.
Okay, my bad.
But Fish, all I was just saying is that what they're explaining to you is that if the MOA is sound and it's valid, which it is, then God exists.
What I'm getting from this is the only part of that I can deny would be God being logically possible.
Yep.
Wait,
yep.
No.
Well, go ahead.
I don't know why you would deny that. That's a really...
You don't know why I would deny that God is logically possible?
I mean, like, are you saying he's impossible? Or just not possible?
Logically speaking, God is impossible.
Okay, what law of logic does God violate?
The law of non-contradiction. He contradicts himself, especially if you're speaking in the biblical sense.
I don't... Okay, let's just ask, what's the contradiction?
In the biblical sense? The biggest one is that he gives you free will, and then he also determines everything that happens in the universe and foresees everything that happens in the universe. So everything that you do is predetermined from the beginning of the universe.
We could even consider, let's say it's the case that God has made contradictory statements. That would not mean that God existing is a contradiction.
Bring a contradiction with God existing.
Sure, but like the example he gave that does not satisfy what's needed here. Like even if God made contradictory statements in the Bible, him existing would not be a contradiction.
Yeah, that doesn't deal with the argument. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they
Yeah, it's totally irrelevant.
Then what does?
You have to show some sort
Give
of
a contradiction in God existing, the mere fact of God existing. Like a P or a P and not P.
Yeah, so we take the proposition of the negation of the proposition, and then you show us what that is, and then we'll see if we agree or not. Yeah.
All right, so who wants to engage with me? Let's be clear.
I have a fellow Cambridge student on the panel. He would like to debate. No, I'm just playing.
Bro, you're too hyped here. I'm scared.
No, I'm messing with y'all. But you can go ahead and give the P and not P if you want to.
All right, yeah. So first of all, right, we construct a Kripke model, right? So we have a set of possible worlds and accessibility relations between worlds, right? In the domain of individuals, and interpretation function assigning meaning to that worlds. All right. And then there exists a non-empty collection of possible worlds.
Is there any way you can slow down just a little bit?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
Never mind, bro.
What was that?
About? Oh my gosh.
What? Why did he just like stop giving the argument?
I don't know.
He was about to talk about
I feel bad now because I asked him to slow down a little bit and he was like,
I might be
no.
wrong, but was he? Yo, were you talking about modal systems? I think I've heard that argument or like some form of that. Or am I wrong? That I just like make a
I
huge
feel
blunder in the
bad.
argument? I could have swore you were talking about modal systems.
Was he trying to prove God exists?
No, he was trying to prove a P and not P with
You can come back up. I'm
I might be
sorry.
wrong now.
Chelsea, it's cool. Chelsea, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
You're all going to hell.
Oh, okay.
That's a good shit.
Why do you think that?
What's the P and not P for that? Go ahead.
That's like a shit. What happened?
Well, that's rude.
What's the P and not P for that? That's crazy.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, wait. So, what's your name? P Mars. What's your theory of proof? Go ahead.
My theory of proof? My theory of knowledge, you mean?
No theory of proof.
I don't know what that is.
I can ask you about your epistemic theory, though. If that's knowledge.
Yeah, are you a foundationalist or are you an infinitist?
Revelatory. I'm a revelatory foundationalist.
So you like dudes is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
In particular, a dude named Jesus.
Oh.
Well, you know what? I think
can
he
we have
likes
the
him
argument
too.
for God, P Mars? I'm like really curious.